So this will be a quick video on finding the domains of functions, specifically multivariable functions. So let's start off with 1 over, hold up, I'm writing really slant around. 1 over xy for the function f of x, y. So what's the domain for this? What does domain mean? Domain just means any possible values. You could have a function that has infinity as their domain. Negative infinity to positive infinity, it doesn't matter. But for this specifically, we have x and y in the denominator. So we have to think, what values cannot be inside of the denominator? Well, the only value that can't be inside the denominator is 0. So when is the denominator 0? Denominator is 0 when x or y is equal to 0. So x just can't be equal to 0 and y can't be equal to 0. And then the rest of it is quite literally just from, open interval negative infinity to 0, open interval, union with 0 and infinity. And the reason why I'm using parentheses rather than brackets is because bracket includes the value 0. So if I put bracket here, let's give you an example. x1. This domain would be 0 to 1 for x. But if I were to remove this equals then sign, then you would use a parenthesis. So parenthesis means on an open interval, which means that you do not include the last number. And bracket means less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. You can equal that number that the bracket is next to. So for this would mean you're equal to 0. You cannot be equal to 0 here, x or y. So this is our domain for x and y right here using set notation. Interval notation, sorry. Let's go with 25 minus x squared minus y squared. Okay, another way to see this function is 25 minus x squared plus y squared. So if you distribute this negative along the x squared and y squared, you'll get this function up here. So what does this mean? Well, square roots cannot be negative. So this right here, this function, so the function inside of the square root cannot be negative. So what is this? Has to be greater than or equal to 0, right? Square roots can equal to 0, but they just can't equal the negative values. So the function inside the square root has to be greater than or equal to 0. Well, you can just solve for this inequality. You can move this onto the other side. So this function, entire thing, onto the other side. And there it is. This is our, I guess, domain. Yeah. This is our domain. Hold up, let me triple check this. Yeah. Yeah, it has to be less than or equal to 25. That makes sense. So x squared plus y squared has to be less than or equal to 25. The reason why is because of x squared plus y is greater than 25. Let's say 26, right? This is equal to square root of negative 1. And the only way you can get this is I, but we're not using imaginary numbers inside of our equations or inside of this function. So for this equation, it will be x minus 2y plus 6 is equal to f of xy. So anytime you see a square root, you want the function inside of the square root to be greater than 0. Separate this from the function, and you want it to be greater than or equal to 0. Now if we move all the terms except for x onto the other side, you plus 2y and you subtract 6, you get this. And that's it. That's our answer. But if you want to think logically about this, or if you want to just test this out, let's just say, I don't know, x is equal to x is equal to negative 10. X is equal to negative 10, y is equal to 0. Let's try this out. Okay. When x is equal to negative 10, put this into the previous function. Let's actually put this into like this. And y is 0. So we have negative 10 minus 0 plus 6. What do we get? Square root of negative 4. Impossible answer. So, whenever you see a square root, it's honestly pretty easy. You just grab this function underneath the square root and set it greater than 0. And just move some terms until you get something that looks like this. Or just isolate some single variable. Honestly, does not matter. You can isolate y for this example too. Like, let's say, instead of doing this, you can also do this. Let's move x onto the other side and 6 onto the other side. So you get negative 2y divided by minus x minus 6 divided by 2 on both sides. But when you divide by a negative number, you have to flip the inequality symbol around. So the inequality symbol looks like this. You divide it by negative 2. So the negative term cancels out on the x, and you get a x over 2. You divide negative 6 by 2, which is positive 3. So these two can both be your answers for the domain. But typically, when you see a square root, all you have to do is set this greater than 0. And when you have a fraction, you just got to set the bottom not equal to 0. And actually, that's going to be exactly what this next problem is about. F of x, y. So all you have to do is, as long as x plus y is not equal to 0, that's the answer. It's that simple. So what does that mean? Well, any single x and y value, let's say x is equal to 1, y is equal to 1, right? 1 plus 1 is 1 over 2. So we get 1 over 2. That's a possible answer, right? But as long as x plus y is not equal to 0, this equation will work. If x plus y is equal to 0, you get 1 over 0. That doesn't exist. And we can also have negative numbers. Let's say negative 10 for x, right? And y is 8. That's fine. You get negative 10 plus 8, so negative 10 plus 8. And that's equal to 1 over negative 2. That works as well. But what if you have negative 10 for x and 10 for y? Well, that doesn't work because negative 10 plus 10 is equal to 0. And you cannot have this function equal to 0. So that's really all. If you have square roots, so if you have something like a square root of some function, all you have to do is say that function is greater than or equal to 0. If you have 1 over some function, all you have to do is 1 over not. Let's make this a little more precise here. F of y. Okay, this is for our square roots. And if you have 1 over f of xy, all I have to do is say over xy not equal to 0. That's it. That's just your domain. And for the square root one, you can simplify it if you want, but ask your teacher which they think would be the better answer. We'll give you full points on the exam. So if you have any questions, put it down in the comment section. Hope you learned something.